Let's go Dolphins! What I'm about to reveal could shake the Miami Dolphins to their core even before the final day of the NFL Combine. Behind the scenes in Indianapolis, conversations are happening right now that could officially end the Tua Tagovailoa era in Miami, and the decision could be announced sooner than anyone imagines. This isn't a social media rumor. The information comes directly from internal sources during Combine Week, and the mood in the league is clear. Something big is about to happen. And here's the part that should surprise all Dolphins fans. People close to the situation are already indicating that Tua will not be on the roster in the first week of the 2026 season. It's not maybe. It's not we'll see. The expectation in the league is that Miami will move on. The only mystery that remains is how. Will it be a trade negotiated discreetly in the Combine corridors? Will it be a calculated release after June 1st to alleviate the salary cap? Or will there be a twist that no one foresees? Before analyzing what's really happening and why this week is absolutely crucial for the franchise, I need to see who's really rooting for this team. Click the like button right now, but only if you're a die-hard Dolphins fan. And I want to read your comments. Type, "Go Dolphins!" Fins up if you're committed to the team in 2026, no matter what. Let's see how strong this fan base really is. Now let's get straight to it. The Dolphins are facing two clear paths when it comes to moving on from Tua, trade or release. But the financial structure of this situation makes things extremely complicated. A pre-June 1 release would balloon the cap hit in 2026, making it nearly impossible to build a competitive 53-man roster. Yes, it would generate massive savings in 2027, over $53 million, but at what cost? You can't field a legitimate NFL roster while absorbing that kind of dead cap in the immediate season. That's why all signs point toward a post-June 1 designation. With that route, the cap hit in 2026 increases by about $11 million, but the long-term flexibility improves significantly. Miami would still save over $20 million in 2027 and a staggering $60 million in 2028. The dead cap in 2026 would be $67 million instead of $99 million. In a year where projections already suggest Miami could struggle in the win column, the front office has to balance short-term pain with long-term recovery. But here's where it gets even more interesting. General Manager John Eric Sullivan is reportedly using Combine Week to gauge the trade market. He'll speak with every other GM in the league. He'll measure interest. He'll explore scenarios. Would Miami need to attach a draft pick to move Tua? Would they need to pay most or all of his 2026 salary to make a deal happen? These are the conversations unfolding right now in Indianapolis. And Tua isn't the only domino. There are also major questions surrounding Bradley Chubb and Minkah Fitzpatrick. Chubb's release has been discussed but not finalized. If designated as a post-June 1 cut, Miami could save $20 million in cap space this season. That's significant money, enough to help sign the incoming draft class and possibly pursue a quarterback in free agency, especially if there's serious interest in Malik Willis once the market opens on March 9th. Then there's Minkah Fitzpatrick. A trade during Combine Week could bring in additional draft capital for 2026. If that happens, Miami would likely use both available post-June 1 designations on Tua and Chubb. But if no trade materializes and a release becomes necessary, that would shift how the Dolphins structure the rest of their cap strategy. Everything is interconnected. Now, let's talk about potential trade destinations that were floated. CBS Sports named four: the Minnesota Vikings, Arizona Cardinals, Indianapolis Colts, and Atlanta Falcons. Minnesota? Extremely unlikely. Brian Flores is on that coaching staff, and given the public history between Flores and Tua, it's almost impossible to imagine them sharing a building again. Arizona? Also doubtful. The Cardinals are dealing with their own quarterback situation involving Kyler Murray. If they move on from him, why would they immediately trade for Tua? Atlanta? Financially messy. They're expected to release Kirk Cousins. It doesn't make sense to cut one high-priced quarterback and then trade for another, even if Miami absorbs most of the contract. The only team that truly creates intrigue is the Indianapolis Colts. The reasoning? Tua has no guaranteed money beyond 2026. He could temporarily fill in while Daniel Jones recovers from injury, stabilize the offense early in the season, and then be moved again in 2027. If Miami pays his 2026 salary, this scenario at least carries logic. But here's my take based strictly on the information we have. A trade still feels unlikely. The more realistic outcome remains a release before March 13th, when additional guaranteed money would kick in. The Dolphins will not allow that to happen. This week in Indianapolis is critical. Decisions about Tua, Chubb, and possibly Minkah could all be influenced by conversations happening right now. The front office must decide whether to rip the bandage off quickly or attempt to extract some value in return. And here's where things get even more intense. Because while the spotlight is firmly on Tua Tagovailoa, what's happening around him might actually tell us more about the Dolphins' true direction than the quarterback decision itself. Combine Week isn't just about 40-yard dashes and draft interviews. It's about private meetings. It's about back-channel negotiations. It's about general managers quietly laying the groundwork for major roster shifts. John Eric Sullivan is in a position right now where every conversation matters. If he walks away from Indianapolis with legitimate trade interest in Tua, that could slightly alter the timing, but the financial realities still loom large. Miami would almost certainly need to absorb most, if not all, of Tua's 2026 salary to make a trade work. And when that becomes the case, the return compensation likely shrinks to a mid to late round draft pick at best. That's the hard truth. And the Dolphins must ask themselves, is it worth attaching assets or paying significant salary just to receive a 5th or 6th round pick? Or is a clean post-June 1 release a more strategic reset? Now let's connect the dots with Bradley Chubb. His situation has not yet been finalized, and that silence is telling. If Miami converts his release into a post-June 1 designation, they free up $20 million in 2026 cap space. That's not a minor number. That's flexibility. That's maneuverability. That's oxygen for a roster that desperately needs it. But remember, teams only get 2 post-June 1 designations. If Tua takes one and Chubb takes the other, that likely means the Dolphins are committed to a long-term reset strategy. If Minkah Fitzpatrick is traded during the combine and brings back draft capital, it almost guarantees both designations go toward Tua and Chubb. However, if Minkah cannot be traded, which is viewed as unlikely, and instead becomes a release candidate, that shifts everything. The Dolphins would then have to prioritize which contracts to structure for maximum cap relief. This is chess, not checkers. And then there's free agency on March 9th. If Miami truly intends to pursue Malik Willis, as hinted in the report, they'll need financial breathing room. A post-June 1 Chubb designation helps. A post-June 1 Tua release stabilizes the books. The timing of these decisions isn't random, it's strategic. Let's revisit the trade scenarios one more time because context matters. Minnesota feels impossible due to the Brian Flores dynamic. Arizona appears focused on its own quarterback reset involving Kyler Murray. Atlanta doesn't align financially after potentially releasing Kirk Cousins. Indianapolis remains the only scenario with even moderate logic, and that depends heavily on Miami absorbing salary and Indy viewing Tua strictly as a temporary bridge option. But even that feels thin. The reality painted by the information we're working from strongly suggests that the Dolphins are preparing for a release before March 13th, when additional guaranteed money would trigger in 2027. That deadline is critical. Miami will not allow unnecessary guarantees to lock in if the plan is all ready to move forward without him. And here's the bigger picture, Dolphins fans. This isn't just about one player. It's about the identity of the franchise heading into 2026. The Dolphins are projected to struggle next season. Cap constraints are tight. Major contracts are being evaluated. If this front office chooses the post-June 1 path for multiple veterans, they're essentially signaling a recalibration year, a season focused on financial restructuring, draft capital accumulation, and long-term sustainability rather than immediate contention. That may be uncomfortable, but it may also be necessary. The combine conversations this week will ripple into free agency decisions, draft strategy, and even how Miami approaches 2027. If Tua is released, the quarterback room resets entirely. If Chubb is designated post-June 1, defensive restructuring accelerates. If Minkah is traded, draft flexibility expands. Every move connects. And here's the question that should be on every Dolphins fan's mind right now. Is this the beginning of a strategic rebuild disguised as roster management, or is this a calculated short-term correction designed to reload quickly for 2027? Because once Tua's decision is official, the direction becomes clear. Now I want to hear from you. Do you believe Miami is making the right call by moving on financially and resetting the cap? Or do you think there was still a path to make it work with Tua under center? Drop your honest opinion in the comments right now. And if you're riding with the Dolphins no matter what direction this team takes, make sure you're subscribed, hit that